Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. Been a while since I've done this one, to be honest with you. And to be honest, it's a little bit exhausting having a difference of opinion or thought in the Newcastle United fan base this season. There's a real tribal mentality where if someone's opinion doesn't align with somebody else's opinion, you're attacked, you're chopped down, you're vilified, you're thrown in the fire. And it is a little bit boring, to be brutally honest with you. But there's been a lot of talk about this lad and a lot of talk about what's happening with him recently. I thought I'd just come on and give my opinion on it, where I kind of stand in the whole situation. Of course, it is about the big man himself, Big Nick Vormard, who has been transitioned by the looks of it into a midfielder recently, mainly to fill the absence and the void of Bruno Guimaraes, who's injured and missing from the team. Now, listen, the main important thing above all of this is that the team is doing well. Newcastle are winning games. Nick Vormard has looked okay in that role, to be fair. He's got a goal. He's seen a bit more of the ball. He's looking a little bit more lively. But long term, is this going to help or hinder Nick Woltemada's career development? He's 24? He's just turned 24 on Valentine's Day. Same birthday as Kevin Keegan as well, to be fair to him. So what a day to have a birthday, Big Nick. But what concerns me a little bit about the whole situation, Nick Vormard, it goes right back to the summer. Now, True Geordie Bryan, friend of the channel, he's done some videos, a lot of videos about Nick Woltemade. He obviously rates the lad really highly. He's done a lot of research on him and how he played at Stuttgart, how he plays for Germany as well. And when you look at the evidence, when you look at the way he played for Stuttgart and the way he played for Germany, one thing was very, very obvious with that is that he has runners around him. He has technically clever players who can drop into holes and feed off those passes and do little 1-2s, get him back in the box and create goal scoring opportunities for him. And the boy can finish, there's no doubt about it. Nick Vormard can finish. What has he got? 8 goals the time he's been at Newcastle, and most of them were pretty much him feeding himself, really, because he's not been getting the ball. So he can play up front, he can be in the mind, he can score goals, but if you look at the whole Nick Vormard thing, it goes right back to this summer. And I think it's all about Eddie Howe getting what he could get, not what he wanted to get. Now, that's not me knocking Nick Vormard and not criticising Nick Vormard, because I think there's a real player in there. He reminds me a lot of Dimitar Berbatov, those touches, that kind of casual, cool movement, then the ability just to flick it and turn it and set up a goal scoring opportunity or create a chance for himself. I think he's a really, really good footballer, but he's only a young lad. He's in a brand new country. He's in a more physical, intense, quick league than the Bundesliga. And I think it's starting to show a little bit in terms of his game. Some of the games are a little bit too much for him, a little bit too intense for him. But I think the biggest issue that we have is in the summer, the Alexander Isak situation. I hate to say his name, sorry guys, I know you're shouting and bawling at the screen right now, but the Alexander Isak situation was really badly handled by Newcastle. Really badly handled. If this lad had made it abundantly clear that he didn't want to be at Newcastle anymore, we shouldn't have even attempted to try and keep him. Who was doing that? Why did we do that? Why did we try and keep Alexander Isak? Why did we let this whole thing play out? Why did we let those targets that we were after, maybe more mobile strikers who could lead the press that Eddie Howe wanted, why did we let them go away? Liam Delap, gone. You're telling me if Liam Delap had come to Newcastle and he thought he was going to be the main man, the number 9, and Alexander Isak wasn't going to stay here, that he potentially wouldn't have chosen us over Chelsea? Yes, the money was there, Chelsea, and if it was down to wages, of course, we're not going to compete with Chelsea. I'm not naive enough to think anything other. But was that really happening then? Did we think there was an outside chance of keeping Isak? I think that we did as a club. And there wasn't a chance of keeping Isak because he didn't want to be here. João Pedro, the same. You copy and paste with Liam Delap. Again, João Pedro, by the sound, wanted to go to London. There's money there probably as well. Then you look at Ekitike, the whole thing with Liverpool and Ekitike and Alexander Isak. Now, if Liverpool and Newcastle were sensible about this, Newcastle could have said to Liverpool, listen, if you want Alexander Isak, that's absolutely fine. We want a figure that's close to our valuation, but we want to sign this lad. You guys are in for this lad. You guys step away and let us sign this lad, and we'll have our Alexander Isak replacement, and you can have Alexander Isak. And if Liverpool and Newcastle had done that, rather than try to one-up each other, that whole thing could have played out differently as well, to be fair. I know Ekitike seems like a bit of a shithouse, and he said that once Liverpool were interested, that's all he was interested in, blah, blah, blah. But he is going to say that to the press and to appease the Liverpool fans as well. He's not going to say, well, to be fair, I nearly signed for Newcastle, like them as a club, because he'll get loads of shit out of the Liverpool fans. So that was completely mishandled as well by Newcastle United. So Benjamin Sesko was another one. The Manchester United thing. Manchester United didn't have Champions League to offer Benjamin Sesko, but they did have Manchester United to offer him in terms of historically, the size of the club. He obviously liked the club. He was a big Ronaldo fan and all that kind of stuff. They flew out a 6 or 8 man entourage, and we had Andy Howe on fucking Teams trying to talk to him, putting up little thumb emojis for the fucking reactions. we look Mickey Mouse, and that's all to do again with the mismanagement of the upstairs in the summer, which I do believe again cost us a lot of targets, right? So that's a little bit of mitigation, a little bit of context to the situation. So we were left, and it sounds horrible because he's a really good footballer. You don't get chased by Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and people like that if you're not a good player. So we then were able to sign Nick Vormard. I think Jamie Rubens himself intervened with that, and we signed Nick Vormard. Now all those centre forwards who fit the bill for Eddie Howe were gone, right? So this is where I have an issue, not just with the board and the way they handled those targets and everything else, but I have a bit of an issue with the way the manager's playing the situation, because if he's done his due diligence and he has done all the scouting and looked at Nick Vormard and knows what kind of a player he is. He's a technical player who drops into the hole, likes to flick passes around defenders, likes the ball at his feet. You know, he's not a particular, a kind of a old-fashioned number 9 target man, sling a ball in the box and he'll win a header. Scored a few headers since he's been here, to be fair to him, but he wasn't that type of a player. So if Eddie Howe knew he was getting that type of player, why didn't he set his team up to cater for that type of player? Ever since we've signed Nick Vormard, we've still been trying to cater, and this poor lad was living on scraps. The teammates were hitting passes to him like he was Alexander Isak, a mobile striker who had blistering pace, who could, play on that shoulder and get round a play. And that's not his game. He wanted players to run beyond him. He wanted Barnes to run beyond him. He wanted Gordon to run beyond him. He wanted Langer to run beyond him. Murphy to run beyond him. And nobody really did that. And we've had this lad for so long now, and they still don't seem to know how to play to his strengths. So now what's happening with it? And I don't want to be hyperbolic and say it looks like the manager's given up on him. But the minute that Wissa was fit, Wissa was in and Nick Vormard was out, because Wissa has more mobility and maybe can lead that press, which is what Eddie Howe wanted in the first place. So it's becoming abundantly clear that Nick Vormard just does not fit the formula and the identity of how Eddie Howe wants his Newcastle team to play. And that's absolutely fine, right, if that's the case. But we've kind of not done very well by the lad, in all fairness. We've spent 69 million quid on the kid, and he clearly didn't fit the manager's style. He clearly didn't fit the team's style. And we didn't fit his style either. So overall, it's not looking like a particularly good move for Nick Vormard or Newcastle. I hope that changes. I really hope that when Bruno Guimaraes comes back, that's what concerns me with this, is all the press right now, they're spinning this narrative of, is Eddie Howe doing it again? Is he doing a Joe Linton again? And listen, whatever you think of Eddie Howe, whether you're Eddie in or Eddie out, what he did with Joe Linton was an unbelievable transformation of a player. Joe Linton deserves a lot of that credit too, by the way, for switching up and changing that position. But what he did in transforming Joe Linton from one player to another, the only thing I've seen close to that was Gareth Bale going from left back to one of the best left forwards in world football at one particular point. So it can't be understated, that. But I'm not sure this is what's happening here. I think Nick Vormard was plugging a massive hole in the Newcastle ship at the minute while Bruno Guimaraes is out. And the minute Bruno is back, Nick Vormard will be back on the bench again, and he'll have to see a left winger playing up front. And I have a bit of an issue with this as well. Me and Mark are going to talk more about this on What's Going On as well on Monday night. But I have a bit of an issue with this as well, because Anthony Gordon, for me, seems to be getting trapped like he's the superstar in Newcastle United right now. And listen, he scored 4 goals against Karabag, right, in the Champions League, and it was a brilliant achievement for him. Let's get it right. Karabag were dog shit in the first half, right? I think most half-decent footballers could have got a brace against them. I'm not trying to underplay what Anthony Gordon did, right? He's not suddenly turned into 1998 Michael Owen all of a sudden. This is a lad who fluffs chances when he's one-on-one most of the time, only scored 2 goals in open play in like a year and a half of football in the Premier League. That's not a clinical player. People are saying he's the best centre forward of the club. He's not the best centre forward of the club at all. He really isn't. You look at the statistics and goals per game ratio. That's what centre forwards are measured upon. And he's not the best striker of the club. He's not a striker. He's a left winger. He can play there, and he can be disruptive, and he can be, leading the press, and he can be, running defenders ragged. But when he gets one-on-one and that natural striker instinct, Anthony Gordon doesn't have it. Barnes has got it more than Gordon has. But again, Barnes gets criticised way quicker than Gordon does. Gordon has become a bit of a media darling because of his England kind of regular connection. They've almost kind of akin to what Harry Kane used to be like. Harry Kane could half somebody break their ankle in a 2-foot challenge and they go, well, the defender should know better and get out of the way. That's the way they used to treat Harry Kane. Michael Owen had it when he was in Newcastle. Michael Owen was awful at Newcastle in terms of he put in minimum effort. He didn't want to be there. He was a bit of a shithouse. But they love Michael Owen because it was Michael Owen. And Gordon's almost going down that same route. It's a massive character arc from being this little chava that everybody hated to this kid that now nobody wants to criticise and everybody wants to praise at the first opportunity that they can. And the manager's got a bit of that as well with the media darling status and certainly within the fan base, but definitely in the media. You can't say a bad word about Eddie Howe or you will be attacked. And I'm not going to do that because I'll be attacked. I'm just saying this Nick Vormard situation goes right back to the summer for me. I think that this isn't the striker that Eddie Howe wanted. I think he can't afford to be patient with him in terms of keep him up front and persevere with him, you know, a bit like what Liverpool are doing with Ekitike, whether he has a good game or bad game. Most of Ekitike's games are good, to be fair to him, but Liam Delap's having us at Chelsea again, they've given up on him straight away, but that's kind of what Chelsea do. If you don't hit the ground running, you're gone. I know Delap's been daft at the red cards and not taking his opportunities and everything else as well, but with Nick Vormard, you've got Wissa, who's been injured the majority of the season. He looks like his legs have gone now after this knee injury. He looks like he's been set right back, you know, even 2 or 3 years into his career, really. You know, 50-odd million quid for Wissa's looking like one of the worst bits of business this club's done post or pre-takeover, to be brutally honest with you. And now he's seen wingers getting put up front ahead of him. And Nick Vormard, this is the mad bit. So a lot of people are saying, well, Nick Vormar's doing his bit for the team, but they're also not criticising Anthony Gordon for not doing his bit for the team with the penalty thing, you know, which Trippier wanted him to do. And I see where Trippier was coming from with it. I also see the argument of, oh, well, Gordon's a penalty taker, you know, he's got to take the penalty. But when you've got a hat-trick already and you're playing against a team that you're so many fucking levels above, giving the penalty to the other kid to help his confidence grow and all that might not have been the worst thing to do. But listen, I'm not going to get into that because it's a very divisive subject. We'll get into that more on Monday potentially, and a bit more about Nick and all these rumours around Nick. Now, I think there's no smoke without fire potentially. And I think Trippier doesn't do what he does if Nick Vormard isn't feeling a little bit under the weather at Newcastle, I think, and Trippier doesn't do that, and he certainly doesn't react like that if everything's rosy behind the garden. If you think it is, then fine, great, you know, you do what you do, but I'm a bit more of a pragmatist and a realist, and I think that maybe there is something off with Nick Vormard at Newcastle at the moment. He's playing that position because he wants to play football, and he's doing the best that he can with it. I'm recording this pre-Manchester City. He could have a blinder and look like fucking Messi there and fucking score 2 goals. I highly doubt it against Manchester City because I think they're all bosses, especially with Arsenal dropping points. But my concern here is that he's just filling in until Bruno comes back. Then he'll be back on the bench again. And I do worry that the Nick Vormard and Newcastle relationship will be a very short-lived affair. And I think he may be gone in the summer. And I think it's all to do with the fact that he was just never the right man for the manager, in all fairness. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Are you subscribing to this? Oh, he's the new Joe Linton. He's going to be transformed and become this number 8, this deep lying or kind of attacking point of a diamond midfield 3, you know, and filling as a number 10? Or do you think that he is a striker? We should have persevered with him. We shouldn't be messing him around in positions. Are you not bothered as long as the team's winning? We always like to hear what you've got to say. Football's all about opinions. It's all about discourse. That's allowed, contrary to what some people think these days. You are allowed to have a difference of opinion, but we'll just keep it above the belt. We'll all talk about it in a nice, calm, civil way. The comments are down there for you guys to do it. Like and subscribe. Hype the video. Do all you can. Thanks for watching evermore. We'll be back with more content soon. Have a belter. I'll see you later.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.